I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Okay, so as you probably have surmised, today on Pomegranate Radio, we are talking about Tommy Wiseau's epic masterpiece, one of the great films of our time. That's right.
Or not so great.
Shut up. The Room. That's right, the cult classic that Entertainment Weekly considered the Citizen Kane of bad movies. Personally, I love it for reasons that probably surpass understanding, but I'll explain that later. All right, let's just go around real quick. Destin, this is your first time seeing it, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. First impressions.
I thought it was tragic, I'm going to be honest. The acting was pretty pitiful. The script was pitiful. There's some great shots of the scenery. That's about the best I can get it.
Yeah, I do. I like those opening shots especially.
Yeah.
You know, the establishing shots really work for me. Yeah, the writing is abysmal. You know, written, directed, produced, and starring Tommy Wiseau. Produced apparently by 2 or 3 other people who are either dead or don't even exist. I don't know. All right, Will, how many times have you seen it now?
This is my second viewing.
Oh, all right.
The masterpiece. And you know, after the second viewing, I think there were a lot... The first time you watch it, you're just trying to get over how strange it is and how many weird things are happening. And then you watch it the second time, and you think, this man is more insane than I had any clue. You catch so many more things than you do the first time. Like the dog in the laundromat. Or not the laundromat, the flower shop, wherever it is.
Yeah. You know, in Greg Cicero's book, The Disaster Artist, which is about his relationship with Tommy Wiseau, they met in an acting class in San Francisco, and details his work, first as a line producer and then as second star of The Room. He talks about that scene and said that the crew figured it was the one piece of genuine acting in the whole movie. It was the one moment where Tommy Wiseau actually did something off the cuff, just that wasn't written down on the page. Of course, that doesn't change the fact that that scene, I'm not sure, it's like Dada-esque. It's like somebody chopped up the dialogue, threw it into a pot, and they just started saying lines whatever they drew out of the pot.
And you know the really tragic part about it is there are a few people in this movie that actually can act pretty well. I mean, yeah, it's a first movie, and you can tell that they're first movie actors, but there are some people in the movie that can act pretty well, like Peter.
Even Mark, near the end, I was relatively impressed.
Yeah, they're pretty good, but they're bogged down by this horrible script that they have to act through, and Tommy Wiseau's insane mind. I don't think there's any redeeming after that.
I think, and you know, and I said this when we were watching it. We just finished watching it. You know, make sure everybody was familiar in everybody's mind. And I said this as we were watching it. I think there are 2 rooms. I think there is the room that Tommy Wiseau set out to make, this kind of vanity project that was self-financed with, what was it you said?
Imported leather jackets from Korea.
That's right.
But he will not elaborate any further on them, though.
There we go, crack cocaine. So this is crack cocaine movie here, all right? Or you know, I don't know, Thai hooker movie, whatever we want to say. However he financed it, it was essentially self-financed, $6 million. There's that movie, and it's tragic. You know, like Destin said, it really is tragic. It's woefully inept. He's not a good director. He's not even a passable director. But then there's the movie, in my eyes, there's the movie that he accidentally created. And I think it's not a cinematic masterpiece by any stretch, but it is a really good view, a really powerful take on mental impairment. I think the character of Johnny I think he has Asperger's or autism, and I think that the entire film is from his perspective, his subjective perspective. That explains why there are no transitions, why there are non sequiturs everywhere, why nothing makes sense. Because in his mind, it does make sense, and it doesn't need explanation. It's why everything is polarized. It's black and white. It's very, very simple. You guys are shaking your head.
You know, I feel like you can't say that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Will, but,
yeah.
Jonathan, you're wrong.
I am not wrong.
No, you can't say that. You can't say that all these things were perfect and worked really well together. when you say this is a movie he accidentally made, you know, you say there's the vanity project that he set out to make, and then you say that there's this look into a person with autism. Yeah, I don't see... I can see a good opinion about how that could be a great movie, but I don't see any levity in it when it's just accidental. I think it's just tragic, like he said, tragic filmmaking. I think it's just, why are there no cut shots, or why is this not happen?
Because he has autism.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's because he doesn't know how to make a film, and you know that's fine, and you get your giggles out of it. But it's tragic. That is the recurring theme.
But the thing is, if you can make a case for something existing in the film, whether it was intentional or not, it doesn't have to be volitional. If it's there, if we can make a case for seeing it, and I see this. I see an autistic man dealing with the world. Very, very tragically, to use your words, but he is dealing with it, and this is there. You know, and I think that's why there's so much of it. I mean, you know, we look at, you know, Destin, you said you liked Mark's acting towards the end of the film.
Yeah, I thought it kind of tightened up.
It really did. But you look at it, and there's this sudden change. He goes from, no, get away from me, you manipulative bitch, when he says that to Lisa in the scene almost immediately prior to the party. He says that, and then all of a sudden at the party, he's looking at her with this lust in his eyes. And suddenly, he no longer likes Johnny, and he wants to pick a fight with Johnny. And then he insults Johnny's manhood and masculinity. And then he manic depressively says, no, get away from me, you manipulative bitch. This is all your fault, when Johnny's dead at the end. You know, I think in an autistic mind, in a mind that's, you know, at the very least, not functioning properly, maybe not explicitly autistic, but certainly not functioning properly, that kind of transition or non-transition makes sense.
Yeah, because like you said, that scene where he first is, you know, telling Lisa to get away, Johnny's not there. You know, and in the end, after Johnny's dead, once again, Johnny wouldn't be there, and he goes back to his original opinion. So I see what you're going for.
Yeah, there's more of a case there. Yeah, I can see that. But I think before we delve into our philosophical closing remarks on the movie, we do have a list of things in the movie that we thought stuck out, and which is to say they stuck out more than the rest of the movie itself stuck out.
The movie sticks out.
The movie sticks out, yeah. As a whole, the movie sticks out as, yeah, I'm just going to say it's absolute crap. All right, let's just kind of go down the line. Just some things that we kind of picked up on that, you know, funny stuff, serious stuff. So, dear God, who wants to touch the first sex scene?
5 minutes in. All right, I'll touch it.
5 minutes into the movie, and they're already having sex.
All right, fun fact. As us three know, but maybe some of you out there don't know, when Juliet, I don't remember Lisa's name.
Juliet Danielle,
when she showed up for her first day of filming, Tommy Wiseau, in all of his infinite wisdom, just like, let's shoot the sex scene today. Let's just shoot the sex scene today. First. Hi, nice to meet you. Shake hands, and then we'll shake lower hands.
Take your clothes off, baby.
Exactly. But 5 minutes in, and not to get nitpicky with it, but what kind of sex scene was that?
It's the most bizarre sex scene I've ever seen. I mean, I like European cinema, so there's a lot of sex in there, and I like erotic cinema. I admit it. I enjoy that kind of stuff. You know, not the pervy stuff. I don't like porn. I like erotic cinema. This was, 4.5 minutes of protracted foreplay, followed by the most disgusting, boring sex ever put on film.
It was. I think it was an excuse for Tommy Wiseau to expose his body. Pulsating haunches, which occurred more than once.
Referring to Tommy Wiseau's wonderful aged buttocks.
Now, I'm not saying to go online and look at a picture of a half-naked Tommy Wiseau.
No, don't do that. You don't need that.
It is one of the most unique and terrifying things that you will see.
I think it was Destin who said in the middle of it, it looks like there's a gerbil trapped in there trying to get out.
His muscles twitch at random intervals. I honestly think this scene was just so he could rub against this woman and show the world his strangely fit yet horrifying body.
Oh my God, that is true. I'm not the world's most attractive person. I think we'll all admit it. I mean, we are not movie star quality looking men in this room. All right,
but we're not half naked. We're having sex with a woman on the TV.
No, we're not
naked. Tommy Wiseau.
But we are. I mean, Tommy Wiseau's body is surreal in its own right. It is pudgy and yet incredibly ripped.
It's splotchy.
I mean, he's got weird.
It looks like a Rembrandt painting.
Yes,
frankly,
yes, it does.
It looks like a Rembrandt painting.
You know, and I mean, and it's the only possible body type that would go with his voice and his personality. And according to if you look at the special features on the DVD, and you know anything about Tommy Wiseau, you've seen him in anything else. His personality as Johnny in the film, as the character Johnny, is pretty much identical. Would you guys agree to what we see of Tommy Wiseau?
Oh yeah, but it's not as bad because he has lines to say. Just regular day-to-day Tommy Wiseau, he'll say anything. I mean, like, it was said that he had to have cue cards and he had to have the 32 takes to do the scene where he says, "I did not hit her," and says, "Oh, hi, Mark," the iconic line. No, he's just crazy. Mark. He's just crazy.
Also, just talking about Tommy Wiseau speaking, can we talk about the tragic re-recording of all of his lines?
Oh my God, the overdubbing, yes.
I think it's literally the worst I've ever seen in a movie.
While we're talking about the speech, what nationality is this man? Do we know?
I don't know. Personally, I used to think French. I mean, Wiseau, I really, really used to think French. But honestly, at this point, I'm going to go with mentally handicapped Serbian. Just because, why the hell not?
No, I could see that. But I'm surprised that you think Wiseau's his actual name. We look at a guy like this, and I mean, he has his creative streaks, and more people know his name than will ever know my name, probably. But
I know your name.
Oh, thanks. No, but
I didn't know Tommy Wiseau's name going into this. So,
but I don't know. He's the kind of person that could be living with an alias in like some sort of French villa somewhere because he thinks he's running from the KGB or something. That's just something that he could completely pull off.
Well, he is very reticent when it comes to his prior life. I mean, his early life. He tells very little about his past. I don't know. It could be he might be on the run from the KGB. He might be a Nazi. I mean, how old is he?
Born in 1955, we think.
Supposedly.
Many internet sources have supposedly, air quotes, supposedly calculated to 1955, which is sketchy at best.
All right.
Sketchy at best.
So this guy is okay. In the movie, Johnny is a creepy 45-ish-year-old bastard, and in real life, currently Tommy Wiseau is a creepy 58-year-old creepy bastard. Let's also talk about, I believe this was Destin again, the ungodly, awful laugh.
It is the worst fake acted laugh.
Oh, no, better yet, what if it isn't fake?
If it isn't fake, then he is a terrifying human being.
He's like some sort of, honestly, I like to think about people in terms of their spirit animals, and his is a snake. It is a snake.
His spirit animal?
His spirit animal is a snake. He like coils and whines and has that long hair. He looks like a snake to me. And I could just see that. It's creepy.
It is creepy. I'll give you that. He looks like a snake who has never been to a Men's Warehouse. I think he really needs to go and buy some new suits because none of his suits fit him. And we're not talking simply they are not tailored, okay? None of my suits are tailored either, but they fit me. I look good when I get dressed up. Tommy Wiseau looks like he shrank. He looks like he shrank.
I think he has a reverse little man thing going on because you see him without his clothes on and he's pretty muscular. He's pretty lean.
Yeah.
But he puts on the clothes and he wants to seem like a little guy in these big baggy clothes. And he wants you to mess with him or something, and he'll just kick your ass. You see, that's the vibe that I get from Tommy Wiseau, is he is strange and backwards enough to warrant doing something like that.
All right. Okay. So it's really just kind of his shtick.
Yeah. Big clothes, weird speech, terrifying movies.
And also, was his hair dry at any point in the movie?
It was greasy, we'll give him that, right?
He actually just doesn't shower.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
There we go.
I don't believe that.
Yeah,
There we
actually, I don't know that for a fact, but
Yeah, we are not in any way trying to say that that actually is true. So, Mr. Wiseau, if you listen to this, please do not sue us. We have no money anyway. All right? We are broke.
We are a non-profit organization.
Yeah.
wait.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's move on, I think, now to Claudette, who, all right, let's skip the other secondary characters for a moment because, admittedly, they're all weird and backwards and creepy. Claudette strikes me as one of the most perversely wrong characters in this because she is supposed to be a kind of mother figure. She is.
Supposed to be. She is her mother.
Yeah, but she's supposed to be a mother figure as well. She's supposed to, mother her daughter. And instead, this is a woman, a grown woman, an aged woman who's been around the block a couple times by her own admission. She doesn't blink when her daughter says, "Johnny hit me." Her response to that is, "Johnny doesn't drink." In complete disbelief and completely disregards the fact that her daughter might have been the victim of domestic violence. Incidentally, this movie is horrible on domestic violence because when Mark also goes up there and goes up to the rooftop and tells Johnny a story about a girl who apparently was sleeping with 12 different guys. One of them finds out and beats the crap out of her, sending her to the hospital. Johnny laughs. What a story, Mark. You could say that again. I mean, what is that?
It's just no sympathy. I mean, they don't think about the public view.
All right.
But, no, back to Claudette. Is she supposed to be a sympathetic character? Or am I supposed to hate her? Oh, Johnny doesn't drink? Yeah, you tell her, Claudette. Oh, and she reinforces all of Lisa's negative behavior. I have no idea how to feel about her.
Well, I mean, consider she does have breast cancer. The test came back. She definitely has breast cancer, which, of course, is never mentioned again. Nobody seems to care. Even her daughter says, "Oh, you'll be okay," and changes the subject.
I've never heard someone be so nonchalant about cancer.
I definitely have breast cancer.
Oh, I'll be fine. They're curing more and more people every day.
No kidding.
No.
I mean, geez, seriously? Woman, I'm sorry, but that's not a response. And Tommy, I got to tell you, this I sincerely mean as a person who fancies himself a middling writer, but a writer. That's not good dialogue, man. That's not good characterization. That's not good anything. I definitely have breast cancer. Jesus Christ.
That's one of those moments. Go ahead.
Well, still talking about Claudette. Can we also bring up how she fully just enforces her daughter staying with this man solely for his assets?
Yes, materialism is good, people. Women, young women, college-age women, if you find a man who's willing to pay for you, buy you a car, buy you a house, that's good. You should marry him. Don't throw your life away.
Exactly. Oh, and I think one time she says it in the movie, "You can't support yourself, Lisa. You know that." And Lisa doesn't even really respond negatively. She kind of looks at her like, "Oh, I guess you're right." What is that? I mean, I think we're getting into a whole new vein of this movie as kind of misogynist. Just in the slightest bit, just hints here and there and here and there.
But again, I go back, with that vein, because I think that's definitely there. But I go back to what I said earlier about Johnny being autistic. I don't think that's necessarily misogyny in a traditional sense. I think it's a case of a character or a person who's simply unable to empathize with other human beings. I don't think he sees it. I don't think his worldview permits that as not making sense. I think he really does see materialism as being love. He even says that as much at the end when he's trying to defend himself to Lisa and he's trying to get her to stay with him and not run off to Mark. I think that he really equates materialism and physical affection with love. I don't think he's capable of understanding any kind of deeper reality to love. I could be wrong.
I could see that. I could also see this just being Tommy Wiseau's point of view being subconsciously portrayed into the movie. Like, how many women in this movie are, like, round or changing or progressive characters, and how many are just objects for one thing or another?
Well, consider Lisa. I mean, the throwaway extra with one line at the party scene, Lisa looks hot tonight. All right, character it appears out of nowhere. The camera just pans to him. He says his line. The character disappears. And that's the way Lisa is treated throughout this. In fact, Lisa, we even treated her that way. Look, I mean, in the middle
She's the punching bag.
She is the punching bag. But I mean, I'm not sure that that's a good thing, and I'm not sure if that's the way we're supposed to respond. We ended up equating her, comparing her to Drew Barrymore, and concluded that, well, Drew Barrymore may not be the world's most attractive actress. She is a talented woman. She is a talented actress. And what's the best we can say about Juliette Danielle? She's the blonde bitch.
Exactly. Yeah. She's the lightning rod, punching bag, whatever you want to say of the movie. And think about how many other women characters are in the movie. Her mother, Claudette, and the woman who just gives the guy a blowjob halfway through the movie.
Oh, yeah, Michelle. Yeah, Michelle, who may be the only realistic female character. Okay, ignoring the very bizarre oral sex scene. But she may be the only genuine female character in the movie. She expresses concern, restrained as it may be, concern over the affair between Mark and Lisa. She tells Lisa, she acts as Lisa's conscience later on when she tells her, you have to tell him the truth. You are not pregnant. And she tries to argue for some sense of normalcy. She's the only character who does. Everybody else coddles Lisa and coddles Johnny.
Mm-hmm. It's weird.
You know, let's move on to something a little less heady, a little less philosophically dense for a second. Destin, you're going to have to talk about this because I'm not going to be able to talk about it without laughing. I have in my notes little nipple mouths.
Oh, okay. One of the actors, I can't remember which one it was.
It was Greg Sestero, wasn't it?
Was it Greg Sestero? Well,
no, it wasn't Greg Sestero.
No, it was
the guy that
it was
gets
Michelle's partner.
The frat head Mike. There's so many characters that start with M.
Mike, who actually was not that bad of a vocal actor.
When he was being a dumb ape.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, he acts like a meathead, a dumb stereotypical frat boy, but he is, I mean, in that term, he is good at it.
He has this rare thing, you know, whenever men have
inverted nipples.
Inverted nipples, and they kind of looked like mouths. And this was at a point in the movie when we were just screaming out any sort of thing that seemed silly. And it erupted from my subconscious.
That was excellent acting right there, man. And excellent directing, Tommy.
No, he was. I think he was still eating like a piece of chocolate at the time, and he was chewing and trying to make pleasured faces. But aside from that,
okay. In terms of the pleasure, all right. Now, I took an informal tally, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 sex scenes occurring within the first 30 minutes of this film. Okay, one occurring an hour into an hour and 40-minute movie. And then a stunted sex scene occurring 4 minutes after the last full sex scene. In all of the sex scenes, the dubbing, the sex noises, the grunting, the pleasure sounds are the most bizarre, unerotic things I've ever heard.
It sounds like a zoo.
It sounds like a zoo. I mean, the first one, you never hear her make peep one. Instead, you hear Tommy Wiseau grunting. Like an ape. Repeatedly.
The thing that I noticed was the background sensual music was so loud. It was louder than the actors could be heard, which I guess isn't really that hard because she didn't make a sound the whole time. But
I think she was just trying to keep from crying.
Oh, and there's the fact that he tried to get her to film another sex scene, and she wouldn't.
Yeah, they reused the first sex scene.
Probably the smartest thing that she has done in the process of making this movie is not getting naked with Tommy Wiseau again.
Well, I mean, would you? I mean, good God. But yeah, you're right. They recut bits and pieces of that scene, recut actual shots. I'm pretty sure some of them were the exact shot, and then leftover shots from the earlier scene, you know, and it's just bizarre. I mean, I don't know. Why couldn't they have just rolled into bed, cut to the window, and then said the next morning, there are no other transitions in this movie, so why not do that? You know? All right. Moving on to something else a little more seriously, and I'd like to take a moment here on Pomegranate Radio and talk to the young people in our audience, okay? Young people, I have a very important message. Don't do drugs. Don't buy drugs. Don't sell drugs. don't do anything Denny might have been doing with the drugs. Because Chris R is going to show up, he's going to stick a gun in your face, and every moment, every second that passes after he is moved from your face, you will turn redder and redder. Guys, tell me, what do you think about Chris R? I like the guy.
I think he was phenomenal. I think he was the strongest actor in the entire film, and I would have loved to see him do some more work.
Yeah.
I'm an avid Reddit browser, and while I was on Reddit one day, I saw a celebrity cast for The Room, and they had all sorts of people. I think Nicolas Cage was Johnny, because who else? Because he's almost as much of a joke as Tommy Wiseau. But
yeah, I can see that.
When they tried to recast Chris R, they just recast Chris R because who else could do it? Because he had the best acting in the movie, and that's tragic. Because it was the easiest acting in the movie, but it was the most believable.
It really was. And, I watching that scene with Denny, I'm reminded of an interview or a documentary I watched on the making of, what was it? I think it was I Spit on Your Grave, the original one, or Last House on the Left. One of those exploitation films from the 70s. The female lead, the director said that the female lead acted on set, even not when they were shooting, acted like she actually thought the man who played the thug who rapes and kills her was actually going to rape and kill her. And that's the sense I got from Denny in that scene, is that he legitimately was scared. The actor was legitimately scared of the actor who played Chris R. And like you said, he was the only truly continuously believable actor in the whole movie.
For the minute and a half he was on stage, granted.
For a minute and a half. And that brings up another thing about this movie. The subplots appear and then disappear in this movie.
They can't even be called subplots.
No.
I think they're just filler. Because if you go throughout the story, with the time lapses in it, Johnny and Lisa are unhappy. Lisa has an affair. Lisa keeps having an affair. Johnny finds out. Johnny kills himself. Spoiler alert, kids. Sorry. But, I mean, if you just go that route, you have a 20-minute movie, and the way it is now, you'd have these awkward sex scenes, the mom having breast cancer, but that doesn't really matter. These people who are their friends who just have sex in their house once, and you have Denny getting almost shot for drugs. Where did that come from? Where did that go?
There's no other mention of the entire drug situation.
No, it's a 5.5, 6 minute scene, and it's absolutely irrelevant. Nobody seems to care. We don't go anywhere with it. I don't know.
What I would not have given, or what I would give to have read a first draft of a script for The Room. His first draft, his just stream of consciousness onto a piece of paper. What would that have been?
Interesting tidbit, children. Something I read said that this is a screenplay, an original screenplay by Tommy Wiseau, adapted from a 500-page book that Tommy Wiseau wrote and could not get published.
Oh my God.
That was, in fact, an adaptation of a stage play that he had written and could not get produced. And yet, if you watch the interview with him, again, included on the special features, which are almost as mind-numbingly terrible as the movie.
But they're actually better than the movie, because you can see the insanity in person. But
if you watch the interview, he says, Greg Sestero explicitly asks him, how did you get the idea for The Room? Where did the idea come from? He says, well, I had an idea, and I decided to write a screenplay. And then I thought, hey, I will turn this into a movie. And so, yeah, which is not consistent with the story that other sources have, which comes from, surprise, surprise, Tommy Wiseau himself. So who the hell knows what exactly it is? It's bizarre, it's surreal, and, that's that, I guess. I don't know. A first draft, one of the actors gave an interview sometime later in which he said that what was on paper, what was in the script, was actually worse than what they ended up saying, that they ad-libbed huge amounts of their lines simply because some of it was even worse than what they ended up recording.
I remember reading all kinds of things about the production just being a nightmare, how it went 3 months longer, and how the actor who played Peter actually didn't get to finish the movie, which is why we just have Joe Schmo come in at the end.
Weird guy in white shirt.
He shows up at the party.
And just decides he's going to out Lisa and Mark at the end. It didn't fit. And when you realize that it was supposed to be Peter, that's kind of a coherent thing to do in a movie. But no, Tommy Wiseau couldn't get the filming in.
Never mind. I mean, even Peter's character, Peter doesn't come in until, 40 minutes into the movie?
Yeah, if that.
I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, characters just kind of wander in and out, and poor production, And again, I'm not going to try and say that this film is a masterpiece. I really don't think it is. But I think that there's more to it than we give it credit for.
In our humble opinions.
What I gotta say, though, just going off on a tangent here, looking at my notes, Greg Sestero's line, "I just saw you, what are you talking about?" One of the most lucid and rational characters ever put on film. So lucid and rational, it's painful. So painfully literal in his interpretations of things. Lisa calls him, and we don't actually know how much time has elapsed since their staircase of McLovin, but they're on the staircase, they have sex, and some time passes. We don't know if it's a couple hours. We don't know if it's a couple weeks. There's no sense of time in this movie. But she calls him, Lisa calls Mark and says, "I want you, I want to see you." And he says, "I just saw you. What are you talking about?"
She says, "I miss you.
I miss you, and I love you." You
red
love
flag,
him?
boys. That is a red flag right there.
If a woman says she loves you, it's bad. Run away. There's a chance Tommy Wiseau is also having sex.
Yeah,
with
we're going
her.
to put a disclaimer in this first episode. Don't take any relationship or emotional advice from anyone on this podcast.
Especially immediately after watching The Room.
Yes, because really, The Room, if it accomplishes anything besides shutting off higher brain function, it's to make you not want to be in a relationship, which may be what Tommy Wiseau was trying to do.
It's impossible for Tommy Wiseau to hold down a woman.
Apparently,
emotionally.
According, again, I go back to Greg Sestero's book, The Disaster Artist, which is a phenomenal read. And even if you're not a fan of The Room, I strongly urge you to read it.
Is the sane one writing about the insane one?
Yes, it is.
But he's sympathetic to him.
But he is sympathetic to him.
Mm-hmm, because he's, I would say, his only friend.
In The Disaster Artist, Tommy Wiseau is depicted as having absolutely no luck with women. And we're not simply saying he has bad luck with women. This is a guy who, they go out and they try and pick up these two women, and the girls start laughing at his accent and laughing at stupid things Tommy Wiseau is saying. And he gets upset, thinking they're mocking him, and he starts screaming at them in the restaurant, and Greg Sestero apparently has to drag him out of the restaurant. Again, he also is depicted as being very temperamental in his acting class. He gets extraordinarily jealous of Greg Sestero when Greg Sestero gets his SAG card, his Screen Actors Guild card. But at the same time, Greg Sestero points out, and I think it's something we all need to keep in mind about Tommy Wiseau. Tommy Wiseau got it done. Tommy Wiseau wanted to make a movie, and so he got $6.5 million together, however he did it, and made the movie. It's guerrilla filmmaking at its finest. It's bizarre, it's surreal, insert adjective here, but he got it done.
Oh, yeah, because there's no one who would have made a movie like that except him. And it's admirable, I think, that he got it done, but that's the only way it did get done.
It did get done. And it got done with such incredibly moving scenes, such moments of crystalline lucidity as tuxedo football in an alley before your wedding.
For 30 seconds.
For 30 seconds.
Tommy ended by Peter, "I'm done."
And that's actually the last you see of Peter, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Probably the most poetic part of the movie. I'm done.
I'm done.
Peter finally freeing himself from the bullshit that he was bogged down by.
And the thing is, this film was only supposed to go, like you said, 3 months of filming, and it ended up going about 6 months, I think. Peter, at the time he said that, at the time he recorded that line, wasn't actually done. But it turned out to be one of those happy accidents, one of those great ironies set to film.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of the things that we talk about can really be encompassed in just, what are you thinking about movie making?
The missing beard. The missing beard, according to Greg Sestero, this scene was written in, and he had Greg shave his beard off simply so he could call him Babyface in the film? I don't know. I do find that odd. There is an unmistakable undercurrent of homoeroticism.
Oh, the entire time.
You know, I mean, we can start with Greg and Tommy, with Mark and
we'll start
Johnny.
even sooner than that. We haven't even touched on Denny or what Denny is.
Oh, God, Denny is a creepy bastard. There's no way around it. Denny, if Claudette is the most perversely wrong character, Denny is the hands down creepiest, flat out creepiest character in the film. Consider their very first scene. He walks in after Lisa has put on this sexy gown, and it's very obvious that, you know, her and Johnny are going to go and, you know, make passionate, sweet lovin'. Denny opens the door, walks in, compliments Lisa on how attractive she is, asks how much her dress costs, and then says, "Can I come upstairs with you guys?
I like to watch."
I like to watch. They say no, and it's very obvious that they're going to go upstairs and have sex. He eats an apple, and then he goes upstairs, gets into bed with them, starts a small pillow fight, and then says, "I just like to watch you guys," in the most lewd and lascivious manner possible.
You know, Denny's whatever you want it to be, kids. He is anything. There is no explanation.
There's no wrong answer either.
There's no wrong answer.
Right.
There's no right answer. There is no explanation.
The child squats down behind a chair. He squats down behind a chair in one scene and proceeds to have a conversation with Lisa and then gets up and leaves.
And the comment was made, we probably think in the script that it said, Denny sits down and then talks to her. And the actor who played Denny just doesn't even realize.
Then it means that there are clearly chairs available. I think he just takes a squat on the floor, and then they have their conversation.
Have this awful camera angle. But no, if Tommy Wiseau is on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 crazy, then Denny is at least a 15 in this. If Tommy Wiseau is the normal in this movie, Denny is just terrifying. He has no place in the movie. I would say that the movie would be the same thing without him. But I think it would actually be a little more bearable, honestly.
It might be more bearable, but I would tell you, I do think that he is much more pivotal than almost any other secondary character. All right, I think that we have a foursome that we have to have in the film. Obviously, we have to have Johnny, we have to have Mark, and we have to have Lisa. Their triangle makes up the bulk of the story. But I think that Denny, as the film exists now, is the only interesting secondary plot line. And I think that his relationship with Johnny is much more significant. I think it paints Johnny as a much more human character than would otherwise he would otherwise be seen as. He would otherwise be simply the chump who gets cheated on. He'd simply be a victim throughout the film. And a victim who, I'm sorry to say this, is just too flat out stupid to realize he's being a victim.
Like there's this great scene where I think is it Claudette and Lisa when they're talking about how, you know, why Denny's even like there in the apartment complex, and they talk about how you know, Johnny's actually like taking him in and like has got him in this apartment and everything. I would have loved to hear more about that backstory.
Absolutely.
Where I could actually understand, like, you know, why Denny is really part of the story.
Yeah, the most rational thing they did with Denny was make the audience be sympathetic to Tommy.
Yeah,
because up to this
exactly.
point, I mean, he's just a regular guy, and yeah, you can have sympathy for a regular guy, but he's just kind of weird, and he's clearly has poor judgment with this woman, but, you know, he's a good guy. He took care of Denny like he was his own son, which he could be in any light in this movie.
But then you've got that scene paired closely with a scene where he confesses his love for Lisa to Johnny,
hoping he would be jealous.
Johnny understands and talks to him in this weird paternal tone. And then all of a sudden, Denny turns around and says, "Oh, but then there's this Elizabeth girl. You know, I kind of love her. When I'm done with college, I want to marry her and have babies."
That's the idea. What was the line right after it? And just we're back right into
this
the
weird,
room.
Incorrect sense of what love and a family is. It's crazy.
But again, I go back to what I said at the beginning. I think this is the only worldview that Johnny is capable of as an autistic man. I think this is the only way he can understand the world. That's why the ending seems so... To me, the ending is simultaneously out of place and perfectly fitting. What I mean by that is it's an extreme reaction. And it, the cinephile in me says this is just bad movie making. There's no reason for him. This is a wild overreaction. We don't need to kill this character off. There's no reason for it. It does nothing for the story. But the part of me that says this is a story about a man with autism, yes, it does make sense because his worldview has not only been challenged, it's been crushed.
There's no Tommy without Lisa.
There is no Tommy without Lisa.
That's what it comes down to. And when he doesn't have Lisa anymore, when he doesn't have control of Lisa anymore, he's gone.
Yeah.
And him committing suicide at the end of the movie is the literal translation of that. Tommy is no more.
And interestingly enough, I'm sorry to interrupt, and this isn't an insult by any means, but I think it's kind of funny that we're actually mixing up Tommy and Johnny. It's like we're almost forgetting that, Johnny's the character because... And I've been doing it too, and I think it's because Johnny is so similar to the real Tommy Wiseau, and they're both just weird, trippy dudes, and I think that they're both really similar in their actual worldview.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. The last time he said Tommy and then I said Tommy, I did hear that. And
yeah, Tommy and Lisa.
Yeah, I mean we have. I think that does bring to the surface another aspect of this. How autobiographical is this film? Is it a story that is it kind of wishful thinking that doesn't ever come to fruition, or is it based very much on a betrayal that Tommy Wiseau experienced in life? Maybe this is simply his way of dealing with betrayal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best thing the best end capper, bookend, whatever you want to call it, for this movie, the summarization. I like your idea of the view into the autistic person or his worldview, but I really like the betrayal thing that you bring up right here. I think that's...
Yeah, maybe this is actually just a cinematic representation of something that he actually experienced in his life. And he just... It's like, hey, this was a hard time, I'm going to make a movie about it.
Yeah, and he could have expressed the road not traveled, the road where he did in his life and how it affected the people around him, as cheesy as it is at the end when Denny, leave him, I want to be with him, just leave him. And Mark's just strangely sensual kiss on his forehead at the end.
Yeah, after they were just so angry with each other.
Yeah.
Like there was no time where he just had an internal realization of, oh man, I was taking this out of proportion, or oh, I'm wrong. It was just instantly, oh wait, I love Johnny.
Yeah, it's Johnny and Mark's relationship is complex, bizarre, quirky. I don't know. I don't know ultimately that there are any answers. Let's just wrap it up this way. All right, we've had absolute. We've had some depth, we've had some levity, we've had some happy moments, we've had some sad moments. We all feel stupider for having witnessed this. I feel myself that my soul is dead for having seen this as many times as I've seen it. All right, gentlemen.
Now here on Pomegranate Radio, we like to take an iconic line from each movie that we view and put it on a scale. So we're going to call this scale the "You're tearing me apart, Lisa" scale. So how many "You're tearing me apart, Lisas" do you give this movie, Destin?
I'd have to give it a 4. I think it's because, as we talked about earlier, it's an awful movie, frankly. I would never watch it again, but I think it spawned so much great discussion and so much interest that I can't go much lower.
Yeah, but I definitely have to agree. It could be better.
It could be a lot better.
It could be worse. Barely. But it did spawn a lot of great conversation for the movie that it was, not what it may have been or may have intended to be. For what it was, I think we can give it a 4.
I said it before and I'll say it again. It's not great cinema, and so obviously I'm not going to give it a 10. At the same time, I think going 4 is too low. I really do. I think that I think you're undercutting it. I really do. I think it's not a cinematic masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination. But if you look, for example, the autism thing and the autobiographical aspects of it, I think that this is a much more coherent film from certain point of view than people are giving it credit for. So I'm going to have to go with a 6. It's not a masterpiece, but I think it's much better. I've seen much, much worse. I've seen a hell of a lot better, too.
You must have seen more movies than I have. So,
all right. So 4, 4, and 6. We'll just split the difference. We'll say a 5.
an average of 5. We'll go with that.
Sure.
Or 4.5. All right, Willie, 4.5s. You're telling me about Lisa's.
Out of 10.
Out
Out of 10.
There it is.
Last words. Favorite line. Go.
You're tearing me apart, Lisa. It doesn't get any better than that. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to echo that. I can't beat that one.
Okay, I'm definitely going to have to say, immediately after the phone call with Mark, what are you talking about? I just saw you. I think it's just too real and wonderful.
It kind of takes you out of the movie.
It's too real. It's too real.
Pomegranate.